at is a thesis about absorptive capacity and collective intelligence in open innovation communities of software enterprise. It has been submitted. It is in German. It's 400 pages long. Delight. Can send you a free copy. That's not the problem. And I just say briefly what he said. So that's the slide that he wrote. What's the problem setting? If you look at product ideas for Google, if you look at Google product ideas, it's about 21,682 ideas that you could see last time, and then you immediately see the problem. What the heck do you do with 21,000 ideas? You can't even read them. So you either have 21,682 customers that are disappointed because the idea wasn't taken, or you have to somehow bubble the ones up that are missed. The problem one is that the absorptive capacity of companies is really limited due to information overlap. That was the idea for Google products. We talked to the Nokia woman in open innovation, and she reported on one competition about 50,000 ideas. What do you do with that? If I open up my competition as a dean on ways to improve the faculty and the student experience, I'll get a pile. I sort through the pile, and I probably miss the best ideas and answer the worst ideas. So one idea really is the idea selection as a very pivotal problem, and the other one is one of absorptive capacity. Absorptive capacity and open innovation have been put together on a conceptual level. Oh, if you have open, you need to have absorptive capacity, but nobody has really looked at the absorption process and at the absorption capabilities. What exactly do you need to have in place to absorb all the great ideas or comment back on the ideas that people have given to you? That's the difference if you look at crowdsourcing issues, Mechanical Turk, then you say, okay, I take one of the designs because I want that design. And if you structure it as a competition, well, everybody understands there is one gold medal, we've just seen that for a while, and a second and a third place, and like an architectural competition, the first three get something, and number 4 and so on have the experience of participating. But once you realize that there are many ideas other than the one solution to your problem, that's a different thing. And of course, there is an interesting thing that if you don't look at absorptive capacity in a qualitative research paradigm, we don't understand it. That's why we didn't send out on how do you do. You didn't get a questionnaire from us. On how is your, do you have absorptive capacity? Yes, now, so to speak. But we decided to look at it in depth. And the other issue is then selection of ideas. Well, it's really tough to harness the collective intelligence if they all come along, and which mechanisms do you use? Very interesting is, the mechanism of thumbs up and thumbs downs, or is it better to have people, experts vote on it and select it, or can people do it that have no idea of the field? It would be ideal if you could not just crowdsource ideas, but also crowd vote on ideas, and it wouldn't make a difference whether they are knowledgeable people. In the Sapiens idea competition, in the first 2 years, we had asked the SAP innovation teams in Waldorf to please read through the ideas. The first one was nice because we had only few. Then we were successful, and we had like 40 ideas. And the expert said, yep, we have other things to do than to read through 40 student ideas that are not exactly in the SAP format of an idea. They don't know our lingo. They don't know that we're already doing this. It's in the labs. Nobody else has known it yet. But why do they bring in the same idea? So you really can hardly use experts to do it. So one of the research questions he had as well, what ways are there to actually bubble those ideas to the top that are most worth it? And most worth it can be either very easy to implement or just very innovative, completely different, wacko ideas that you...
Like an outlier.
Outliers, and how can you avoid that the bad ideas are always bubbled up because they're the run-of-the-mill, what I call yet another idea or yet another piece of research, Japan stuff. Okay, one more of these kind of very minimal innovations. So what relationship do rating scales, ways of voting up and down have to the actual result? And can we produce any experiment?
Too far up, or I went down the stairs.
So I thought it was very interesting. Well, he looked at OSS Brainstorm, ERB Idea Zones, Steampunk, the life cycle world as communities and said, well, how old are they, how large are they, what is the product they actually do, what's the provisioning model behind that, and what is the innovation process. I think you probably know them all. Yeah. And he came up with this process. Very easy to read, but it says really there's an input and an output, and the middle part is the interesting part, and that's why we make that slightly larger. So you say, well, there is this idea collection phase, which we are really good on, but it really goes on into the question of idea enhancement. That's where the community part comes in. And one of the issues is that we see is that idea enhancement is very worth it, because just a discussion about the ideas is already a positive motivational feedback to the idea giver. We ask them, why do you do it? And they said, not because of the prize money, but because I find a like-minded person that also wants to talk to me about this strange thing, yellow tulips. Okay? Nobody else is interested, but I found another person who's also interested in this one aspect, and we had a real deep discussion on this thing. So I'm a happy camper already. So depending on the motivation, the feedback from other users is much more worth than anything else. There's also a popularity signaling on how popular is the idea, and you can then start to look at knowledge arbitrage, how different are these ideas. Then comes the phase of idea selection, where you disseminate the ideas to others, you assimilate it in existing innovation products, you set up follow projects, you develop new concepts. Here it's in German, Abstimmung mit Hauptkunden, so you find out the estimation of the strategic fit. I think that's the next phase in this absorptive capability, that you do something with the idea, bring it to the people where they're actually necessary, and judge strategic fit process. Does it fit to what you're doing right now? Can you put it on the back burner? And then you do implementation, integration into the product portfolio, and finally do idea commercialization. And that's the way that he looked at it. Well, that's an overall process to understand it. So it's not just about collecting as many ideas as you can, or picking some interesting ones, but it's really a very strong process. What actually do you do with the ideas? And if you then look at, you have a number of measures that you can use to do that. In the first phase, and that we have talked a lot about, is toolkit design. How does the website look like that brings in more ideas? How easy is it? Until the question, what colors do you use? What language do you use? How do you bring it actually in? And in the same phase is what we have done so far very often, community building. How do you build a community of Sapiens students, for example? We tested newsletters, side links and everything else, Facebook runs, flights, whatever concept you have to build a community. And it turns out that you need active community building management to get them running, because they might be interested once, but that's it then. And if you look at issues like Topcoder or other communities, well, you have to build them, you have to maintain them, and you have to bring them in. Then there is this whole problem of idea filter design. How do you design filters that bubble up the best idea? Which only makes sense if you have ideas. If you have no ideas, or they're all kind of shabby, then the best filtering mechanism won't get anything. Yeah? Then you have the whole area of boundary spanning. It's easy for a German information systems guy to talk about it, because I'm a professor of business administration and now a dean of a computer science school that have a chair for computer science. I'm also responsible for the executive MBA degree in communication and leadership. And I've been working in two cultures, US and Germany, if that is two cultures. My wife's American, so yes, we are trained, and there are different ways of viewing the same thing. We work a lot with mechanical engineers, even though I'm a business person in a computer science department. That is strange. So how do you have people that can boundary span, that are able to understand the perception of the idea giver and the perception of the actual implementer or idea user? How do you get that working? How do you arrange boundary spanning processes where you don't lose the idea and the handoff process? great idea in the innovation department, then you move it into development, and it was the worst thing we can ever have. Right? And that happens very often. We observe that in the car industry very often. That ideas move between departments just lose their luster. And then you have, of course, ideas of process integration. And if you look at them, we have IT-based systemization capabilities, IT-based coordination capabilities, and IT-based socialization capabilities. So that's what we can go through. And if you look at that, what kind of these measures, toolkit design, idea filter design, boundary spanning, process integration, community building, self-organization are in these various communities. You see what every empirical researcher finds interesting, a differentiated picture. None of the communities has everything, but they all have different specializations. So if you want to go for boundary spanning, steampunk and life cycle world have better things to copycat from than the others. And if you want to look at self-organization, don't go to idea zone, but look at brainstorm and life cycle world, because they have interesting forward-looking stuff on that. And then the notion really becomes, how do you combine all these things together? Toolkit. It's really necessary interaction design to externalize and transfer the knowledge of the community members so they can be used in the company. It is interesting to see that most of the idea communities that I look at assume that you can type. Fascinating. Journalists can type. Everybody else probably draws stuff. So in most of the idea communities, we limit the creativity of our beloved users to being able to type and express in words an abstract concept that they would probably scribble somewhere else. Very interesting. You need collecting need and solution information separately. You need to really leverage the creativity of the idea submitters. Can they make a voiceover comment to their drawing? Can they do it in a video? You need to enforce collaboration among the community members so they really open their idea to others and discuss it. What culture do you need for that? Platform usability and all kind of technical means to enhance member motivation. Leaderboard, status signaling, how many have brought in, and stimulating user activity automatically. We noticed whenever we send out an email or a newsletter or such and such friend has posted something, the Facebook phenomenon, then you go in again. You look at some of the idea communities, not all implemented. So you don't harvest as much as you